Hello there, everyone. I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/NoSleep to read a few spooky stories. You'll know exactly how much upon me uploading it, because it'll be on the thumbnail. Now, if you enjoy, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Just a few emojis will do so the algorithm picks this up. And without further ado, let's get started, shall we? We restore old cemeteries. This was our worst experience. We call ourselves the Preservation Society. We were a small group. Just me, Carly, Jude, and Lena. But we took our mission seriously. This was not just about cleaning cemeteries. It was about honoring the forgotten and restoring memories that time had tried to bury. We studied old tombstone cleaning techniques and used special brushes and solutions that would not damage fragile stones. On some weekends, we worked with local historians, collecting names, dates, and family histories. Each gravestone we uncovered felt like pulling a life back from the void. When we heard about Oak Haven Cemetery's desperate state of neglect, we jumped at the chance to restore it. We thought it would be like our other projects, a few weekends of labor and maybe some goosebumps from the old graves, but ultimately satisfying as we brought the place back to life. However, from the moment we arrived, Old Haven felt wrong. It was not just abandoned, but hidden away, as if the townspeople wanted to forget it even existed. The cemetery lay shrouded behind a wall of dense brambles that tore at our arms as we cut through. Even when we finally reached the gates, a biting chill seeped into the air. Inside, nature had claimed every single inch. Thick vines coiled over cracked headstones, and roots clawed up from the earth, twisting like fingers around whatever lay beneath. Jude, our handyman, went straight to work with his trimmers, hacking back the brush while Carly tried to clear the pathways, raking through layers of dead leaves that had piled up over decades. Lena and I knelt beside a row of tombstones, carefully wiping away grime to reveal names that had not been seen in years. We started to settle into our usual rhythm, though something in the air felt heavy, almost like a whisper just beyond hearing. After about an hour, Carly called us over. She had uncovered a gravestone nearly swallowed by the earth, its crumbling surface barely legible. As I brushed away the dirt, faint letters emerged. Margaret Flynn, 1832. Jude, looking over my shoulder, muttered, "These stones don't feel right." He was right. The ground seemed to resist us, as if it were gripping these stones, trying to keep them hidden. Still, we pressed on, feeling an odd sort of defiance. As dusk approached, Oak Haven began to shift. Shadows stretched longer, weaving around the stones, and every gust of wind sounded like a whisper. The silence grew thick, pressing in on us. I wanted to tell the others, but when I looked at Carly and Jude, I could see they felt it too. On the second day, we ventured into Oak Haven's furthest corner, where Lena found it. She knelt beside an unmarked grave, brushing dirt off a small, filthy doll with blue glass eyes and tangled hair. She stared at it, her face unreadable, almost entranced. "Who would leave something like this here?" Jude asked, his voice barely louder than a whisper. "We should put it back," I said, feeling a pang of unease. But Lena held the doll tightly, tracing her fingers over its cracked face as if it were something precious. From that point, Oak Haven became different. Shadows darkened, and seemed to stretch unnaturally, twisting around us. Carly, always our steady presence, started glancing over her shoulder, her face pale and tight with nerves. Jude stayed close, muttering about feeling eyes on him, and I understood what he meant. Every gravestone we cleaned seemed to breathe dread, as if it were watching us. Lena, meanwhile, grew distant, her fingers constantly clutching that doll. She stared at it as if it held secrets only she could hear, her gaze blank and almost feverish. We scrubbed gravestones with desperate intensity, trying to drown out the creeping unease, oh so gnawing at our backs. Carly's fingers traced names on the stones, as if she were in a trance, peeling back layers of dirt, like she was digging for something buried. It felt as though something old, angry, and hungry was watching us. Just before sunset, we reached a decrepit mausoleum at the far edge of the cemetery. Its ivy-clad stone walls were cracked, and the door stood slightly ajar, revealing only pitch blackness inside. We all felt it, a pull, thick and threatening, like the ground itself was luring us in. We gathered our tools in silence, ready to leave. But as I turned, I caught a flicker of white slipping behind a grave. I blinked, and it was gone. But I could not shake the feeling of eyes on me, cold and close. The next morning, Jude called, his voice shaking. "Lena's gone," he whispered. "Her family had not seen her since we dropped her off the night before." My stomach twisted, remembering her hollow gaze and her fingers clutching that doll with unnatural intensity. She had seemed distant, as if something inside was missing. Carla and I returned to Oak Haven, searching for any clues to Lena's disappearance. The cemetery felt colder than before, as if the air had thickened with something waiting for us. In the far corner near where Lena found the doll, we discovered a freshly dug grave. The earth loose and dark, as though something or someone had been buried recently. Beside it lay a single footprint, small and child-sized, pressed deep into the damp ground, with the doll atop the mound. Then we heard it. Laughter. It was faint, almost a whisper, floating from the trees and winding through the graves. I froze as a chill slid down my spine. Carly's grip tightened on my arm, her face drained of color. We did not speak. We just listened to that cold, high laughter that twisted through the cemetery like smoke, taunting us. We ran back to the car, our hearts pounding, barely glancing over our shoulders. But the laughter followed us, echoing in our ears, wrapping around us like a shroud. As we sped away, the trees closed in behind us, shadows darting in the corners of my vision, as if the cemetery itself was reaching out to reclaim what we had disturbed. That night, I lay in bed, wide awake, every creak of the house amplifying the dread curling in my stomach. The darkness felt alive, pressing in from all sides, thick with a presence that made my skin crawl. I could not shake the feeling that something had come with us, something sinister that lurked just beyond the edges of my vision. As I turned onto my side, I caught a glimpse of the window. The curtain billowed slightly, and my breath caught in my throat. There, etched against the glass, was a small handprint, smudged and dirty, with a chilling outline that seemed too small to belong to any adult. I bolted upright, heart racing, and rushed to the window, but when I pulled back the curtain there was nothing outside, only the stillness of the night. I backed away, my pulse quickening, and just as I turned, I caught a flash of movement in the shadows. A whisper of laughter echoed through the stillness, and the air grew heavy with an unseen weight. I realized with a jolt that we had not left Oak Haven behind. It had followed us. And now, whatever darkness we had awakened was waiting for its next move. I turned on my light, scanning the room, but deep down I knew the truth. We had become part of the cemetery's story, entwined in its haunting history, and there would be no escaping its grasp. The night felt endless, the darkness alive, and all I could do was wait for whatever horror awaited me in the shadows. The Mirror in Room 219, written by SSBSS Hank Hill. I only took the job at Solvane Hotel because I needed the money. Mostly I just stand behind the corner all night, reading my book and make sure nobody was loitering. Thing is, from the very first night, I had noticed something strange about room 219. Nobody told me outright, but I figured it out fast enough. It's the only room they didn't book out, and if guests asked, management would say it was under renovation or reserved indefinitely. But I knew better. The first time I walked past, the door creaked, oh so slightly, and I could feel this cold, damp air leaking out from the crack beneath it, like the room was breathing. But what really got me was the mirror. Directly across from room 219, the hotel had this full-length mirror mounted on the wall, the kind of thing you would see in any hotel hallway, so guests could do a last-minute check. But this one was strange. When I walked past it, my reflection looked off, like it was slightly out of sync with my movements. The lights in the reflection looked dimmer, and I swear I saw a shadow fitting just behind me. The second night in the mirror gave me the creeps again. I wasn't tired. I just started my shift, but as I passed room 219, I saw a flash of something in the glass. A figure, I think, standing back like it didn't want me to see it too clearly. I stopped dead in my tracks, staring into the glass, waiting for my reflection to settle back to normal. It didn't. Instead, the lights in the mirror dimmed, as if someone was slowly turning down the power of the whole hallway, and in that dim, hazy reflection, I could make out the faint shape of another hallway, only this one was grimy, with peeling wallpaper and dark stains running down the walls. I took a step back, but my reflection stayed put. It was like looking into a photograph, and the other version of me didn't move with me. And then, in the corner of the glass, I saw him, the man I'd seen before, or thought I'd seen. He was closer this time, standing just inside the door of room 219, in that grimy, decayed version of the hall. He was looking right at me, hollow eyes glinting in the faint light. I blinked and everything snapped back to normal. The mirror was just a mirror. The hall was empty. My own face stared back, pale and confused. I kept moving after that, finished my shift and kept my head down. I didn't look into that mirror again. The next few nights, things got worse. I would see him every time I passed 219, in the corner of my eye, in the dim light of the reflection, always watching from just inside the door. I thought I was losing my mind, but on Friday night I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what was inside room 219, what I had seen in that mirror. The key felt heavy in my hand. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding. I clicked open the lock and pushed the door. Room 219 smelled like mildew, like something that had been left to rot. The air was thick and stale, and the light flickered dim and sallow, illuminating only the bed and a narrow patch of carpet. But there, across from the bed, was another mirror, and in that mirror I saw the man. He was close this time, his face blurry and twisted. The reflection was so dim I could barely see him, but his hollow eyes locked onto mine. He reached out, and like a claw, his hand pointed straight at me. I stumbled back, slamming into the wall, my breath coming in shallow gasps, but I couldn't look away. And then I felt the room grow colder, like the walls were pressing in. The man took a step closer, his eyes never leaving mine. I don't know how I got out. I remember running, the sound of my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. I don't even remember locking the door behind me. But when I looked back, room 219 was dark and the hallway was empty. I quit that night, left the hotel, didn't even bother grabbing my paycheck. But every so often I'll catch myself looking into a mirror, half expecting to see that hallway reflected back at me. The peeling paper, the dim lights, a figure standing there, watching me from the darkness. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the stories I had for you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the stories, or maybe just a couple of emojis if you have no thoughts on the stories. I will see you all next time. Bye bye. Don't let the bedbugs bite. Or if they do, dear, why don't you bite them back?